Don't make the same mistake I did. No. Here's how to really find your purpose. So I'm going to take you back. So listen to Miles Monroe. And he said something really profound. He said that a seed is, quote unquote, just a seed, right? But a seed doesn't become a tree because it becomes more than what it already is. A seed becomes a tree because it discovers what it was already supposed to be from the inside. And I'm paraphrasing, but what that means is the seed itself had everything that it needed to become a tree inside of it already. It just needed to be placed in the right environment. It just needed to be given the right resources. And so with all of us, with us being treated like we're seeds in the earth, supposed to flourish and supposed to multiply and supposed to dominate the earth and subdue it, you think about what a seed does. It's supposed to be planted, not buried, but planted into fertile soil and watered and given sunlight. And over time, the seed in that environment of being buried starts to realize what was already inside of it all along. There's this common acknowledgement that we're supposed to discover what our purpose is, or we're supposed to go chase what our purpose is, but I found out more recently, within the last 2 years, that purpose is something that was already inside of you. So let me tell you what purpose isn't. Number one, purpose is not what your parents told you your purpose is. It's not what your family thinks your purpose is. It's not what your father did. It's not what your mother did. It's not what your parents, grandparents, your great-grandparents, your great-great-grandparents, the people who live down the street from you, who have been family friends for decades. It's not what they told you that you're supposed to do. All of that is stuff that's being added onto who you really are. Now, they can help you discover what it is, but they can't tell you what you should be doing if they don't have insight on what that is. Now, there are some extenuating circumstances, like there are some people who actually have insight, but you're not supposed to take what somebody says and run with it without thinking about it first and without getting some clarity on it. So number two, what purpose isn't, is not just what you're good at. So there are a lot of people who will say, I'm good at this, and so I think that's what I've been built for. But we all have gifts and talents, plural. So we're supposed to be good at multiple things. We're supposed to have multiple avenues with which we can actually flourish in, but that doesn't mean that you're supposed to go down that route as something that's supposed to be your self-driven purpose, the thing that you were made to do, the thing that you were created to do. That's not necessarily the case all the time. Now, there's an intersection there. And I'll get to that later, but you can't just take what you're good at and say, oh, I guess that's what I'm supposed to do because I'm good at it. It's not that easy. So number three, what it's not is, it's not what you've been doing your entire life. Just because you've been a carpenter for your entire existence doesn't mean you're supposed to end up running a contracting company. Just because you worked on cars with your dad for 15 years doesn't mean you're supposed to own a body shop once you get out of his household. Just because you were baking with your mom in the kitchen when you were younger doesn't mean you have to start a pastry company. That's not what that means. What it could mean is that it's feeding into what is your unfair advantage. I've talked about that in a previous video, something that Elliot Dahl mentioned several times. He says the thing that can't necessarily be recreated at first glance, and I'm paraphrasing, but it's something that can't necessarily be recreated by everybody that you see on the street. It's something that can be uniquely you, or something that is extremely hard to replicate without putting in hours and putting in work that you may have done yourself, or just happened to line up with your circumstances when you were growing up for an extended period of time. So for me, an unfair advantage for me would be, I'm fairly good at reaching people where they are and communicating with them and finding a connecting point. Now, earlier on, it was harder for me to make friends because of some of the issues that I had growing up. But I learned, as it was hard for me to connect with people, I learned how to do that regardless of who I was interacting with. So because of the experiences that I had growing up, which isn't something that was replicated by everybody, nobody had the same experiences growing up, I'm able to say that it's easier for me to connect with almost anybody on a personal level. And that's not me bragging or, tooting my own horn or anything like that. That's just me saying I know it's easy for me to connect with people. That's just it. So with all the things, but it's not, what is purpose? So your purpose is the thing that you were created to do, and it's the thing that's been put inside of you that needs to be, one, like I said, like we're seeds, right? It needs to be cultivated in the right environment. So how do you cultivate that environment? Well, you need to not push back on where God has you. So if he has you in a season where you're financially not in distress, but you're somebody who is dealing with financial insufficiency at a particular time in your life, you do what you can to get yourself out of that situation in a reasonable way, because God's not a God of lack, right? He doesn't want you to stay there, because we're supposed to bless other people. We're supposed to be in a space where we're so fruitful with what we're doing that we can overflow into the lives of other people, regardless of the situation that we're in. So that's emotionally, that's physically, that's mentally, that's financially, that's spiritually, that it goes every direction, and it's in every arena that we're supposed to be doing that. But he had you there for a reason. And that may be to cultivate you to become the person that you're supposed to be once you get to a place where you're actually working your purpose out in real time. So your purpose, like I said, it's something that's already within you. So how do we get that out? Well, you have to be in that right environment. And discovering what your purpose is, well, purpose is the intersection of your gifts or your talents and your passions. So gifts and talents, we touched on that. It can be the unfair advantage that I talked about, or it can be things that you just happen to have. It's like a talent. It's something that not necessarily was worked on for an extended period of time. It just happened to be something that you're really good at. Like there are some people who are neurodivergent who they can play a piano seamlessly. Like they play a full piano piece that's made for, I don't know, they can just do some crazy things with pianos. I've seen it firsthand and I just can't understand it. It's crazy. And the passion is the thing that you get upset about when you see it on a daily basis. Like if you're interacting with somebody and, and they say, yeah, I really want this cake made, and it's a birthday cake for their daughter, and then you say, I would love to do that, and you put, 15 hours into baking a cake for a 6-year-old because you just love the art form. You love seeing people enjoy dessert. You just love seeing people enjoy something that you made with your hands. And that can translate to pottery as well, making stuff with your hands and working with your hands. You just enjoy that aspect of, I've created this with my hands. All I had was a ball of clay, and I love to see what I can do with it before I actually start it. And I'm just using my hands in a way that's artistic and inventive, and that brings life to something that was just a ball of wet dirt. That passion and those gifts, when they line up, you realize that you've been made specifically for this, because your mind is in one place because of your passions, and your physicality or your body or your heart is in another place because you're saying those two come together, and I'm encouraging myself and I'm forming myself to be built for this one thing that I was made for myself. That's where your purpose is. So if your heart's not in it, it's probably not your purpose. If your mind's not in it, it's probably not your purpose. And if it's not something that you feel like you're talented at or you're good at, or it's not something that you work on or you've been continually doing for an extended period of time and you want to keep doing it, it might not be your purpose. So just take that into account. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you all in the next one. Peace.